guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you could join me today. Buckle in, today is going to be a long one. I have been super crazy busy, but thank the Lord we are coming to the end of that particularly crazy season. So our homeschool co-op is over and I can focus a little bit more on the YouTube channel. Just end of year stuff is absolutely bonkers. And if you homeschool, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Planning for next year's classes for our co-op, getting the supplies for that, doing curriculum sales, all the things that come along with providing for your children's education. It's just a big task, which I'm very grateful that I have that ability and that I have a husband who continuously blesses me by allowing me to homeschool. Big fan. So in today's video, I'm just going to be doing some general cleaning, but I want to talk to you a bit about decluttering. And the reason that I think this is an important topic, well, there's multiple reasons that I think this is an important topic, but recently I had been scanning through like my suggested for you YouTube videos, and a lot of it is about decluttering. And just out of curiosity, I do not have a clutter-filled house. There are some spaces in my house that have clutter, but my house itself is not cluttered. And this is mostly because of years of learning not to bring things into my house unless they have meaning or purpose or value. And what I saw when I was, well, backing up, I was a professional home organizer for several years before I had children. And what I saw going into other people's homes, and it was true of my home as well, but at the time I just didn't have money to buy things, so I didn't have much clutter. But what I saw is that people tend to collect things thinking that they are going to use these things later on. And generally what happens is that's not the case. If you're not using something that's already in your house and then you go out and you buy something with the intent to use it, then that thing that you bring into your home isn't going to get used either, and it will just become clutter. So I'm not sure if what I'm saying here makes sense, but I'll give you an example. I have a vegetable peeler, okay? I'm just going to give you a very silly example, I suppose. I have a vegetable peeler in my utility drawer, the drawer where I keep all of my, spatulas and things like that, right? So I have a vegetable peeler. But 9 times out of 10, I find myself reaching for a paring knife instead of the vegetable peeler. It's easier, it's faster, I have more control using a paring knife than I do with a vegetable peeler. But this vegetable peeler lives on in infamy in my drawer, even though I never use it. So why do I keep the vegetable peeler? Well, because I might need it someday, I guess. But take that little silly example and expand it out to the rest of your house. Why do you have the thing that you have? Do you use it? Do you need it? And often what you'll find is that people with a lot of clutter or clutter habits either have an attachment to the thing because of some sort of, I hate the word trauma, but some sort of trauma that they've had. Like I grew up really poor and sometimes homeless. So right, like I have a thing for things because I didn't have things, all right? That's a true story. But I have had to overcome my want of things because the want of things doesn't actually fill the hole that trauma created. So the things don't make me feel any better. And in fact, they actually make me feel worse in the long run because I have all these things and I still have the need, I still have the hole that I want to fill. So the things don't fill it. And you can do this in a couple different ways. Some people do it with addiction. Some people do it with hoarding, which is a type of an addiction. Some people do it with relationships or drugs or whatever. But all of that to say is that the collecting of the things doesn't make you feel any better. And in the long term, it actually makes you feel worse. So when you become an adult and you have a space that you can fill with things, it's very easy to go out and buy the $1, $5 things and be like, oh, I can put this on a shelf, or I can put this on a case, or whatever. But then you run out of shelves and cases, and then you got to buy more shelves and bookcases and whatever, and storage organizers and baskets and bins and Rubbermaid totes. And then you realize, like, at the end of it, nobody's going to keep this stuff, right? Like, this is something that I was reading an article about, and it was about the method. It's like Swedish death cleaning or something like that. I don't particularly care about any of that, but the article was interesting because it was this idea that when you die, someone is going to have to deal with all your stuff. And looking around, is your stuff worth the stress that giving it to someone else is going to cause, or the heartache that giving it to someone else is going to cause? Like, if we're really, really honest, probably close to 100% of our stuff is not worth giving it to someone to have to deal with after we die. Like, I would be mortified to pass away and then have my son have to deal with hoarder levels worth of stuff because I didn't handle my trauma when I was alive. I didn't take care of the stressors and the triggers and the addictions, and I didn't I didn't have enough self-discipline or whatever to take care of my things when I was alive, and so I just collected instead of taking care of what I already had. And I think like this gets to the root of the clutter problem. I think there's several different reasons why people collect clutter and things, but I think the root of it is that, well, we don't care for the things we have. And so we don't feel like spending money on expensive things, which, like, this is true. I live on a budget. I can't just go out and drop $1,000 on heritage heirloom pieces of furniture. So I get the IKEA stuff, but then 5 years later it's broken and nasty and I got to throw it away because it wasn't quality. And then I'm going to continue doing that every 5 years. I'm going to keep buying the broken, horrible quality furniture. And then at the end of my life, I'm going to have produced all this waste because I didn't take care of the thing that I had, or I didn't care enough about the thing to go spend the money on something that I wasn't going to have to continuously replace. So as I've gotten older, and I think this is partially because we have a little more room in our budget, so I want to make that clear. But also I think this is mostly because we just started to adopt the mentality of buy once, cry once. And sometimes this has led to us having to borrow some money, which I know that's a huge thing in Christian circles where people are like, oh, don't borrow money. It's the Dave Ramsey thing, which I completely understand. And yes, I even agree with it. But here's the thing. If I need a couch or a chair or a bed or whatever, and I don't have the $3,000 that it takes to buy a decent bed that's going to give me a good night's sleep, that's going to last for 10, 15, 20 years, then I see it as better to borrow the money and cry once and get the thing that's going to give me a decent night's sleep and last forever, not forever, but a really long time, versus getting the cheap mattress at the mattress store and having it be on the floor where it's going to get moldy and all these other things. So there's a cost, there's an opportunity cost that comes with being cheap. And sometimes you can't help it because sometimes there's just not the money there to not be cheap. Sometimes you don't have a choice, but there is an opportunity cost when you don't spend money on quality things. And in the long run, it's almost always more expensive. And I'm not even saying like you got to go out and get the $10,000 Sleep Number bed or whatever like that. That's not the thing. Like, don't put yourself into loads of debt to get the top of the line, whatever. But consider spending more one time on a quality item that's going to last, even if that means for a while longer you're not going to be out of debt, or you're going to need to save up longer or something like that. But just that whole buy once, cry once mentality has actually been very life-changing for us, and kind of coming out of the Dave Ramsey mentality. Not that I have any problems with it, but I think he grew up in a different time than we did. He said he's so dumb he had to become a millionaire twice to learn his lesson. That might be true. But the idea that you could live frugally and live on rice and beans and whatever, he's got other issues too. Like, he says that the wife needs to work until they're out of debt, which means if that means putting your kids in public school, and do not do that. That's a horrible idea. It's better to be in debt than to have your kids given over to the state. Both are bad, but one is actually better than the other. So anyways, sorry, tangents. This video will probably be full of tangents and full of hot takes. But anyways, the whole idea of get the thing that's actually going to last. Get it one time. Spend a little extra money on it if you can. And I understand that you can't always, but if it's possible, get it one time, spend a little extra money on it, cry about it one time, and then use the heck out of the thing. Enjoy the thing, right? Like, use that thing to bless other people. Now, maybe in the case of like a mattress, you can't bless other people with it, but you kind of can, because if you get a great bed, you're going to get better sleep. You're going to be more productive the next day. So it's worth it, because you can bless your people by being more productive. And I know that sounds like trite or whatever, silly, but it's really not. It's really not. I'll say this, like, about in this shot, you see I have two mixers there. Well, I have a KitchenAid and I have an Anchor Room. And the Anchor Room was super expensive. I've had that KitchenAid Classic or KitchenAid Artisan for 15 years. And at the time when my husband got that for me, he got it on credit. And I used it to start a home baking business. I paid that off so fast because I felt bad that he got it on credit, right? But he knew what I was trying to do, and he trusted me with the resource. And so I started a baking business with it. And it has served me very faithfully for 15 years. But when I started getting into more complicated recipes with more gluten content and more flour content, that motor in the KitchenAid couldn't keep up, and I was getting dangerously close multiple times a week to burning the motor out on that poor KitchenAid. And so I started doing some research, like, are there better mixers out there? And there are super expensive. So I went to my husband and I explained the situation, and I showed him like the videos that I had been watching. And so he started watching some of the videos with me. And then, eventually a few months later, when I was in the heat of making a bunch of bread, the KitchenAid was like having real problems. And my husband was like, okay, I see what you're talking about. You really do need a better mixer. So he bought me the Anchor Room. Now, I believe he had saved cash for that. I'm not sure. I'm pretty certain he used cash on that. But it was a very expensive mixer. I think it was, like, at the time, maybe $700 or something like that. And I balked. Like, I could not believe that we were going to spend that much money on a mixer. But here's the thing. I use that mixer now 3 times a week. It churns out loaves of beautiful bread that I can use to bless my family, bless my neighbors, bless the people in my church. I have had classes in my house to teach baking, to teach sourdough, things like that. So the investment in the mixer has returned probably 100-fold already, and it's only been a few months. Not financially, because I haven't like started a new business or anything with the mixer, but I have blessed people around me with it. And that mixer has been a blessing to me. And I feel like if you start looking at your things as blessings or curses, then it's much easier to decide what to keep and what to get rid of. And that leads me into my next point. If you're going to declutter, if this is like if you're looking around and you're overwhelmed by the amount of things you have to do and to take care of and to dust and to clean, then there is I'm going to say a 99% chance that you just have too many things and you need to decide what you're going to get rid of. So when you start looking around, decide what is a blessing and what is a curse. And initially, you're going to think that everything's a curse because everything's going to need to be cleaned, everything's going to need to be dusted, everything's going to need to find a new home where something can go. And then, but you need to be really honest with yourself. Is the pile of mismatched holy socks a blessing or a curse? It's a curse. Get rid of it. Socks are crazy inexpensive. You can get a pack of them for a couple bucks at a bargain bin store. So get rid of the holy unmatched socks. Let that be a thing that you don't have to deal with anymore. Those are things that those are easy things, right? But then you come to more difficult things, like the knickknacks that maybe your grandmother gave you, or the piles of paper clutter from your kids when they were little, from their finger paintings or whatever. Those are much harder decisions to make. And I sympathize with you, and I am praying that you can be wise about making those decisions. So I'll just tell you what we did with my son's paper clutter. I have a scrapbook, and what I did is I took pictures of some of the cute things that he made when he was little, and I put some of the things, like the paper things, into a scrapbook. It's a smallish scrapbook. And then I took pictures of the other things that he made that I couldn't put into the scrapbook, and then I printed those pictures off and put them in the scrapbook. The scrapbook is not pretty. It doesn't have cute stickers or anything like that. It's literally just a book, like a printed book with paper stuck into it and pictures pasted into it. I'm not crafty as far as scrapbooking or anything goes. Maybe that's a thing that you enjoy and you could do something like that. But here's the thing. When I was looking at all the mountains of paper clutter that we had accumulated over his years of elementary school, I felt guilty about throwing it all away. I wanted to remember some of it. And so, but I didn't have space. We were living in a 800 square foot apartment at the time, and I did not have space to store all this paper clutter. So the thing that made the most sense to me was to save it digitally, and then when I could, deal with the digital clutter. So that's what I did. I took pictures of the things that he made, and then when we had the time and the money, I got that printed into a scrapbook. So yeah, so now he has this scrapbook with his stuff from when he was a kid, and if he wants to keep it, he can, but it's just one book. It's not piles and piles of paper. It's not, it's not a lot. So I have a small Rubbermaid tote with his name on it, with just that scrapbook, and then some other small keepsakes from when he was an infant that are heirloom quality, like a stuffed animal that I think maybe his grandmother made for him, with a onesie that she sewed for him on it that was in his nursery. And so if it's not heirloom quality, and I mean truly heirloom quality, if it's some mass purchase sort of thing, really question if you should keep it, because it's probably not something that your loved one is going to want to have to deal with and go through when you're not around anymore. So just things to ponder. So if you're going to do a major declutter on your house, one of the things that I would highly suggest is that you decide ahead of time what is keep worthy. So as you go into the room that you want to start with, I suggest starting with a small room, something that you use often, a bathroom, a laundry room, a mud room, something like that, even just a closet that you're in and out of constantly. A small win will absolutely help you continue moving through tasks. This is backed by science. This is just fact that if you have a small bit of momentum, a small task that you complete, it helps you feel motivated to complete larger tasks. So start with something small, start with a small area, even just a corner of one room if you don't have like anywhere else to start. And then from there, start moving things out of that area, that closet, that corner, that room, whatever. Do a deep clean in that corner, that area, that room, whatever. And then start putting some things back. But ask yourself as you're putting a thing back, do I need this item? If the answer is yes, then consider keeping it. But before you decide to keep it, ask, do I have this item somewhere else in my house? You usually don't need multiples of items unless it's something like, clothing, that kind of thing. But if you're going to put a vase back, let's say that you clean out the area. Let's say it's a corner of the living room, and you clean off a table and you have a vase on it. You never buy fresh flowers. The vase sits there dirty and collects dust. Why are you keeping the vase? If you never buy fresh flowers, then you're keeping the vase because you have this ideal of you in your head that buys fresh flowers and decorates with fresh flowers. But if you don't do that, then the vase isn't helping you, right? Like if you don't buy yourself fresh cut flowers and have those flowers in the corner in that vase, then all that vase is doing is sitting there reminding you that you don't do the thing you want to do. So you need to decide, does this vase actually make me the ideal version of myself, or does it keep me from being a version of myself that I can currently be? And usually you'll find that the answer is that the thing is not going to make you an ideal version of yourself, because the thing can't make you do anything. The thing is just a thing. You have to make you the ideal version of yourself. And if you're not currently there because you're drowning in clutter, then you need to get rid of the clutter. You can always get another vase at a later time and date if you become the person who buys yourself fresh cut flowers. And you can also, typically, and I'll say usually, when I was dealing with clients who were like this, they wouldn't just have one vase in one corner of the room that was collecting dust. They would have a cabinet full of vases somewhere because they would be out at Home Goods or Hobby Lobby or whatever. And they would see a cheap vase and they would be like, oh, that would be so pretty for the flowers that I want to buy for myself. And then they would never buy the flowers. And so they'd bring it home and there it would sit. And then it would get put into a pile with other vases that never got used. So, be really honest and realistic with yourself. Is that thing that you're trying to keep, is it there because you're actually going to use it, because it actually has a purpose, because it actually fulfills a role for you? Or is it there because it serves some sort of self-destructive ideal of who you think you should be or who you think you want to be? And it just constantly reminds you in a small, tiny little way that you're not that person. Get rid of those things. They are not serving you well. They're not serving your people well. They're not serving your resources or your time well. And they're not serving your mental health at all. So just get rid of them. You have permission. And don't get rid of them in the way that you're going to put it in a box and then put it in a room somewhere for a year because you're like, oh, I put it in a box, so now it's gone. No, put it in a box, put it in your car, drive your car to the Goodwill or the Salvation Army or the Christian thrift store or the dump. It doesn't matter where it goes, but it can't be with you. So that's just these are little secrets of decluttering. There is no system on this earth that's going to organize your clutter if you do not have the space, time, and energy to organize your clutter. So getting rid of the clutter is the secret. And it fills me with rage. I'm usually a pretty happy person, but it fills me with rage to see all these YouTubers that are like, oh, this bin worked for me, or this storage system works for me, or whatever. And then you go and you watch the video and they don't actually have stuff that they're storing. Their house is basically empty. Like, people come over and they say, my house is so clean and tidy. I'm cleaning it all the time. But what you'll notice is that I don't have a lot of stuff in bins or in storage areas or anything like that. And even when I do have things in bins and storage areas, it's things that we're using. So like, that's something that you need to be aware of, that you cannot out organize a hoarding tendency. You cannot out organize your drive to buy things and bring things into the house. You have got to stop buying the things and bringing the things into the house. And then you've got to get rid of the things that you've brought into your space. You cannot have too many things, because if you have too many things, you absolutely cannot organize them. They will take over your life. They will take up time. They will take up mental space. Everything. If you look at each one of your things as a blessing or a curse, you'll quickly be able to realize, like, no, this pile of junk mail is actually a curse. I should throw it away, because I should get rid of things that don't serve me or my people well. And then you can look at the piece of art that you got from your grandmother and say, no, this is a blessing. This reminds me of my grandmother's legacy every time I see it, and I should really take care of it and hang it up on a wall somewhere. So then go do it. Like, if you see the thing, if you have that piece of art that your grandmother gave you and it really is a blessing to you, go hang it up on the wall right now. Don't wait until the wall looks perfect. Don't wait until you have the perfect furniture or the perfect setup. Like, just go do the thing, because doing the small thing will create momentum for you to be able to do bigger things. Clearing that small spot on the counter in your kitchen will create momentum for you to be able to wash the dishes. Mopping the small portion of the laundry room floor that the laundry detergent has spilled on ends up creating momentum to finish mopping the rest of the house. And like, don't get overwhelmed by it, because I do know that feeling when you're looking around and you just see all the things you have to do and it's absolutely overwhelming. But see it as, okay, I've done the first step. I've cleaned the first thing. I've accomplished the first task. Now I have momentum on my side to go do the next thing. And understand too that you are a human being. You don't have to do a list of 26 steps every single day. You are allowed to have time for rest. But what you're not allowed to do is you're not allowed to sit around and do nothing. You can't. That's a waste of your time and your resources. You need to get up and you need to do something. Even if that thing is a small thing, it's still a thing that needs to be done. So build momentum by doing small things. My next tip for getting rid of the clutter is to not bring it into your house in the first place. So put a 3-month no spending moratorium on yourself. Do not shop on Amazon. Do not go to the thrift store. Do not buy the things that you absolutely do not need. And your needs would be things like food. Unless you have a food hoarding problem, stop bringing it into the house. And just give yourself 3 months, like literally just 90 days, to not bring anything new into your space. And wait. If there's a thing that you absolutely are dying to buy, put it in the cart and then leave the cart alone. Don't buy it. Don't check it out. Just leave it there. And then do yourself a favor and walk around your house and see if you have something that can fulfill the need that thing that's in your cart right now can fulfill for the time being. Now, of course, this isn't like toilet paper, there are some things that you do need to buy, and that's just how life is. But do you need new art for your wall, or do you have art that you haven't hung up? Do you need new, I don't know, what else? Do you need new shorts for the summer? Or do you have jeans from last year that don't fit quite right, that you didn't really like, that you could cut down into jean shorts? Like, things along those lines. What do you already have in your space that can fulfill the role of the thing that you're wanting to buy? And then use that thing. Use the thing that you already have, and I'm certain that you have something. Maybe you need a table. Do you have a milk crate? Like maybe you need a little end table. Do you have a stack of books that you're not using, that you could stack together to create a little end table so that you have a place to put your glasses and your, I don't know, lamp, Start thinking outside of the box with some of these things. Some of these things have led to some of my best decorations ever. Some of them have led to just absolutely super creative and cute little vignettes and things. I had a friend who knew that I was redoing my hallway and that I wanted it to be kind of vintagey looking. And she had a glass oil lamp, like a kerosene glass lamp that she didn't want anymore. So she asked, "Hey, do you want this lamp?" Absolutely, I wanted that lamp, but I had to ask myself, do I have a space for this? Is this gonna be something that I'm just gonna spend time cleaning and it doesn't look beautiful? But I had a console table in my entryway that did need something about that same height to make that complete. So I have the little kerosene lamp now, and it's so cute. I'm so glad she thought of me when she was looking at that. So I got that little kerosene lamp for free, and now I have this vintagey looking hurricane kerosene lamp sort of thing that I didn't have to spend any money on. And it brings me joy to look at it. It's so cute. So anyways, those are some sort of thing, like those are things that you can think about. Can you ask around and see if anybody has the thing that you're wanting to buy that maybe you can just borrow for the time being? I do this with like kitchen appliances. I just needed a meat grinder for one little project, and I didn't want to buy a meat grinder just yet because I wasn't going to use it all the time. So I asked around to ladies in my church, "Hey, does anybody have a meat grinder I can borrow for this task?" And sure enough, somebody did. So I didn't have to bring a new thing into my house. I could just borrow it and then give it back. And that's how you stop clutter from happening in the first place. Don't bring new things in until you have decided what things you're going to keep, what things you're going to get rid of, what things you're going to try to sell. And don't get into the trap of trying to sell your junk, because people don't want junk. They don't want holy clothes. They don't want beat up furniture. They don't want that kind of stuff. Just get rid of the garbage stuff. If you don't want to buy it, chances are nobody else will. Don't waste your time and energy trying to list junky stuff on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or whatever. If you have nice things, though, that's a different story. You can make money off of that. I highly suggest that. And I use Facebook Marketplace and Poshmark and things like that for nice things that still have value. But I'm not trying to sell my ripped up jeans on Poshmark, my ripped up Target jeans, on Poshmark for $30 or anything like that. Like, there's a value, it takes me too much time to manage those ripped up jeans and I can't make the money back on them. So in the trash they go, or they get cut down into shorts, or I'll use it for rags or whatever. But I'm not going to waste valuable time trying to list junk for sale and then manage the junk while I'm waiting for people to come pick up the junk. Different if you just want to like curb alert it. Like, from time to time, we'll get rid of some sort of IKEA thing and we'll put it on the curb, and then I'll put a curb alert on next door and say, we have this banged up cubicle thing, cubby thing from IKEA. If anybody wants it, it's there. If not, the junk people are going to come and take it. So, and most times people come and get the junky stuff. I don't know what they're doing with it, but they're welcome to it for free. I'm just not going to spend time or money managing it. It's not worth it. Another thing that you can do to stop the clutter from happening is to let your friends and family know that you do not need boxes of stuff for holidays and birthdays and things like that. This is something that we had to actually hardline to our family members that would send, because my son was the only grandson for a long time. Our family members would send him boxes of cheap plastic made in China stuff from the dollar store. And it was a nice thought. I'm grateful that our family members were thinking of our son and want to do something sweet for him for every holiday, including things like Easter and Halloween. And literally every single holiday, we would get a box of cheap plastic junk in the mail. And then 3 days later, every single thing in that box would be broken because it wasn't made to last. And, you know, kids play with toys and then they break. And then I was having to deal with the meltdown of having a kid who just got this toy and now it's broken because it was cheap and plasticky and junky in the first place. And then I've got to deal with the meltdown of throwing out broken toys and broken pieces. And then what doesn't break, I've got to find a place to store it. If you have lots of kids, this can become a huge problem really fast. I only had one and it still was a huge problem because we had such a small space for such a long time that I didn't have space to store a bajillion toys. When we had moved, we were renting a very small apartment and it just became apparent that we could not have the amount of toys that we had when we were renting a house. It would take over, you know, like, so what we ended up having to do was like throw away all the junk. And what ended up happening, and I was surprised by this, but I guess I shouldn't have been, was that we kept the quality toys. We kept the wooden toys. We kept the educational things. We kept the quality stuff. And because my son had so little at the time, he really appreciated what he had and he really used what he had. And because it was quality stuff that he was using, it was okay that he used it often because it wasn't breaking. And even if it did break, like we had, I think like some Melissa and Doug wood cars or something that maybe like a wheel fell off, because they were made with quality pieces, my husband could easily fix it. It wasn't cheap Chinese brittle plastic that couldn't be fixed. So that's a really fast way to cut back on clutter that a lot of people don't think about. But as we were getting boxes and boxes of stuff, especially, I guess, fortunately or unfortunately, my birthdays in my family are like in the middle of the year and then Christmas. So like June and December. So twice a year we would get boxes and boxes of stuff. And I would have to be like, okay, well, you know, now that we're bringing in a box of stuff, we have to take out a box of stuff because we don't have room for it. And so I eventually just had to put my foot down and I had to gently but firmly tell the family, listen, we really appreciate that you are thinking of our family, that you are thinking of our son. We really appreciate that you want to send him gifts, that, you know, you're being so kind and generous with this. Could you send a gift card, cash? Could you send a wooden toy? Could you maybe you could call him instead and speak to him on the phone or do a FaceTime with him or something. Could you send an experience? This is something that I've really, as he got older and they started asking, oh, what does he want for his birthday? And they were thinking like some sort of like crazy toy or something. I would ask my son, what do you want to do this year? And he would give me a list of things that he wanted to do. And then I would give that list to family members. And so like one year, I think my parents got him a pass to the Space Center, which included lunch with an astronaut. And I don't know how much that cost them, but I guarantee you my son had way more fun with that experience that he ever would have had with a box of cheap Chinese toys. So things to think about. Ask for passes to the zoo. Ask for passes to a splash park. Ask for passes to the community pool. Some of these things don't cost a lot of money, and they would probably actually be cheaper than the boxes of cheap toys that's being sent every month or every couple of months. So those are good ways to cut down on kids' clutter. And because you're the mom, you have to manage all that clutter. So, you know, it's a thing. It really is a thing. And then when your family members abide by that and they do buy the experience or they buy the nice toy or something, absolutely send them a card thanking them for their monumental blessing. Like, reinforce that excellent behavior, because it just becomes so apparent that if we teach our kids to be consumers, they'll be consumers. And it's better that we teach them to be producers and to enjoy experiences. So sorry for that tangent. All right, so there's a bunch of ways to stop declutter from happening in the first place, but you are the gatekeeper of your home. And I just really want to encourage you that you have the biggest impact on the things coming into and going out of your space. So maybe you have a family member that lives with you that is a bit of a hoarder, has hoarder type tendencies. Maybe you have a husband that loves his collections. Maybe you have children that love their collections, and all of that is great and well. But if it starts impacting the state of your home and the mental health of your family, then that becomes a big issue, and you're going to have to do something about that. So my husband really has tendencies to want to save a lot of things, and I think this comes from the same thing. He grew up as poor as I did, and so he really values things. So one thing that I've had to learn is that his section of the closet is off limits. I don't declutter it. My section looks very minimal and is very decluttered, and his section, not so much. And that's fine. Those are his things. He's an adult. He can keep them how he likes. But then that's not allowed to spill out into the family areas. And not that we've ever had to battle about this or anything. We don't. But he has his safe spaces, I guess if you want to call it that. Like the garage. I don't go in. The garage is not my domain. That's not my workshop. I don't have any worry about what's happening in there, the stuff that's being stored in there, or anything like that. So that's his thing to deal with. Those are his things to manage. And we have an agreement that's where he gets to keep his things and nobody gets to bother them. So he also has like a storage space upstairs as well that he can store his little knickknacks and collectibles and things in. So, but it doesn't get to spill out into the rest of the house. The places where I can do hospitality, the places where the rest of our family gets to enjoy for their relaxation and comfort. And over the years, I believe that he has really come to appreciate that part of like the boundaries that we've set. Like, nope, this space is the space for your things, and the rest of the space in the house is the space for the family, because the house is for the family. The family is not for the house. And so that's been kind of a mindset thing as well. So my next point would be that ask yourself, does this space serve my family well? If not, why? And how can I make this space serve my family better? So for me, this usually is about decor because I'm pretty minimal. I tend to like not having things on the walls. I tend to like not having a lot of stuff out. But that really doesn't serve my family very well, because if I'm just having this like sterile environment that looks like it should smell like bleach, then it's not conducive to great hospitality. So for me, I have to check my my bend towards wanting things being white and pristine and clean, and balance that with, yes, things can be clean, that's true, and tidy, but they cannot be white and pristine, because if they are, then that means no animals on the couch, no people coming over with their shoes on, no hospitality, no friends over, no baking cookies with kids that are going to make messes. And so, like, you have to ask yourself, does the space serve my people well? And if not, how can I make this space serve my people better? So, and that may actually include bringing things into your home, like a bigger couch or more chairs to seat more people to eat around your dining room table. Maybe you have a large family and you don't have enough seating right now. Go get some cheap chairs. That's fine. Like, I'm not against bringing things into your home as long as it's serving people well and it's not for the sake of bringing in things. So I think if you align, if you start to question yourself, does this item bless me and my family or curse me and my family? Does this item serve my people well or help me to serve my people well? Does this item require of me stewardship, time, or resources that are better spent on my people elsewhere in a different way? Like, these are all really great questions to ask when you're thinking through decluttering. Do I need to keep this? What do I need to do with this thing? And I can say, like, I've done the same thing with books. I am a book hoarder. I don't hoard anything, but I do love books. So I have a huge bookshelf in my library with all kinds of books on it. Oh, excuse me. Did not have my coffee this morning. So I have a huge bookshelf with all kinds of books on it. And from time to time, I actually have to go through my bookshelf and pull books off of it that either don't serve us anymore or that I have never used, that I think somebody else would actually like much better. Or that somebody could get some more use out of, or if it's just something that doesn't align with how far we've come in like our sanctification journey. You know, people know that we're Christians, so on occasion people who aren't Christian will give us like Christian-ish books, and I'll start reading the book and I'll realize that the book is just trash. And because, like, I don't know, Crossway Publishing published it or something, they thought it was a Christian book, but they didn't know the content. So sometimes I have to get rid of books that are just trashy. And those go to library depending on what kind of book they are. Like, if it's a trashy book because it's written by a secular thing, then it just goes to the library. But if it's a trashy book and it's masquerading as a Christian book, then it goes in the trash. I'm not gonna curse the library with heresy. It's not gonna be a thing that I do. So anyways, you know, just things along those lines. And I really hope that this helps get you thinking differently about clutter and decluttering. Because the truth about clutter is that if you have too many things, you cannot organize your way out of a clutter-filled home. Just like if you run, you ever heard that saying that you can't outrun a bad diet? That's true. That is true in the same way that it's true about, like, you cannot out-organize bad spending habits. You cannot out-organize bad cleaning habits. There are not ways to out-organize the stuff that you haven't been taking care of. So that's not to say that it can't, like, you can't start now, because you absolutely can. And I encourage you to start today. Start small. Start with something that you can do. Don't get so overwhelmed and thinking that, like, you have to accomplish everything today. Remember, it didn't take you one day to get into the clutter or the mess or the bad habit that you're in right now. It's going to take you more than one day to get out of it. So don't expect, you know, perfection from yourself or from those in your home. That's not possible. And that can be used as an excuse as to why you can't do the things. Oh, I have anxiety, so I can't do the thing. No, you absolutely can. Stop using whatever it is as the excuse as to why you can't do what you should be doing. So, you know, I really hope that this video was helpful for you, that it helps you think through maybe the theology of things, the ideas that you have about why you need to keep something or why you need to buy something, or, you know, is this a thing that's actually going to bless my family or myself? Is this a thing that's actually going to help me serve my people well? And if the answer is no, well, then you have a decision to make about where that thing is going to go. And just as a little, you know, just as a little, I guess, conclusion to this is that you're allowed to like stuff. The Lord has made all the things and said that they were good. So, like, you are allowed to like the pretty vase. You are allowed to like the pretty picture. That's my tendency is into leaning towards, like, asceticism, leaning in towards minimalist, and thinking that things are bad because things display an amount of, like, wealth, or I don't know, some things display something, right? And So my tendency is to believe poorly about about the material world that God has created. My tendency is to lean towards that. Now, somebody might be more maximalist and have a tendency to lean towards thinking too much of the things and less of the creator. That's not my particular bend, but I know that is a thing for some people. So ask yourself, like, am I being moderate in my belief set, in my theology about things? And then be honest with yourself. Do you lean more towards believing that things have a greater importance than people? Do you lean more towards thinking that if you have fewer things, you're a more pious or holy person? And then repent and correct your thinking. I have to do this all the time. So these are just my thoughts on managing your things and clutter. If you have any questions, comments, if you have any observations that you'd like to add, definitely leave those in the comments below. I appreciate your guys' patience so much with me in these past few weeks. I know it's been kind of a short couple of videos here lately, but I am hoping to get back to a better posting schedule in the very near future. Thank you guys so much for all the comments, the subscriptions, the likes, and the shares. If you found any of this content helpful, educational, edifying, or entertaining, please share this with a friend that you think would benefit. That's the number one way that you can help support my YouTube channel. Again, I love you guys. I'm praying for you. Have a wonderful weekend, and to the glory of God alone. Christ is King. Bye.